Will AI kill us all?
Yes.
So, what do you think about this one? What do you think is the core argument here? That the development of AGI, perhaps better said, will destroy human civilization.
Well, first of all, you just did a sleight of hand because we went from talking about AI to AGI.
Is there a fundamental difference there?
I don't know. What's AGI?
What's AI? What's intelligence?
Well, I know what AI is. AI is machine learning. What's AGI?
I think we don't know what the bottom of the well of machine learning is or what the ceiling is. Because just to call something machine learning or just to call something statistics or just to call it math or computation doesn't mean, nuclear weapons are just physics. So it's to me, it's very interesting and surprising how far machine learning has taken.
No, but we knew that nuclear physics would lead to weapons. That's why the scientists of that era were always in this huge dispute about building the weapons. This is different. AGI is different.
Where does machine learning lead? Do we know?
We don't know, but this is my point. It's different. We actually don't know. But and this is where the sleight of hand kicks in, right? This is where it goes from being a scientific topic to being a religious topic. And that's why I specifically called out because that's what happens. They do the vocabulary shift, and all of a sudden you're talking about something totally that's not actually real.
Well, then maybe you can also, as part of that, define the Western tradition of millenarianism.
Yes, end of the world, apocalypse.
What is it?
Apocalypse cults.
Apocalypse cults.
Well, so we of course live in a Judeo-Christian, but primarily Christian, kind of saturated, kind of Christian, post-Christian, secularized Christian, kind of world in the West. And of course, core to Christianity is the idea of the second coming and the revelations and, Jesus returning and the 1,000-year, utopia on earth, and then the rapture and like all that stuff. We collectively, as a society, we don't necessarily take all that fully seriously now. So what we do is we create our secularized versions of that. We keep looking for utopia. We keep looking for, basically the end of the world. And so what you see over decades is basically a pattern of these sort of this is what cults are. This is how cults form, as they form around some theory of the end of the world. And so the People's Temple cult, the Manson cult, the Heaven's Gate cult, the David Koresh cult, what they're all organized around is like there's going to be this thing that's going to happen that's going to basically bring civilization crashing down. And then we have this special elite group of people who are going to see it coming and prepare for it. And then they're the people who are either going to stop it or failing stopping it. They're going to be the people who survive to the other side and ultimately get credit for having been right.
Why is that so compelling, do you think?
Because it satisfies this very deep need we have for transcendence and meaning that got stripped away when we became secular.
Yeah, but why does the transcendence involve the destruction of human civilization?
Because how plausible it's like a very deep psychological thing, because it's like how plausible is it that we live in a world where everything's just kind of all right? Right? How exciting?
Wait,
how exciting is that? Right?
No, but
we want more than that.
But that's the deep question I'm asking. Right. Why is it not exciting to live in a world where everything's just all right? Because I think most of the animal kingdom would be so happy with just all right.
Yeah.
Because that means survival. Why are we? Maybe that's what it is. Why are we conjuring up things to worry about?
So C.S. Lewis called it the God-shaped hole. So there's a God-shaped hole in the human experience, consciousness, soul, whatever you want to call it, where there's got to be something that's bigger than all this. There's got to be something transcendent. There's got to be something that is bigger, right? A bigger purpose, a bigger meaning. And so we have run the experiment of, we're just going to use science and rationality and kind of, everything's just going to kind of be as it appears. And a large number of people have found that very deeply wanting and have constructed narratives. And this is the story of the 20th century, right? Communism, right, was one of those. Communism was a form of this. Nazism was a form of this. Some people, you can see movements like this playing out all over the world right now.
So you construct a kind of devil, a kind of source of evil, and we're going to transcend beyond it.
Yeah, and the millenarians kind of, when you see a millenarian cult, they put a really specific point on it, which is end of the world, right? There is some change coming, and that change that's coming is so profound and so important that it's either going to lead to utopia or hell on Earth, right? And it is going to, and then it's like, what if you actually knew that was going to happen, right? What would you do, right? How would you prepare yourself for it? How would you come together with a group of like-minded people? Right? What would you do? Would you plan like caches of weapons in the woods? Would you I don't know, create underground bunkers? Would you, spend your life trying to figure out a way to avoid having it happen?
Yeah, that's a really compelling, exciting idea to have a club over. To have a little bit of tribe, like a get together on a Saturday night and drink some beers and talk about the end of the world and how you are the only ones who have figured it out.
Yeah. And then once you lock in on that, like, how can you do anything else with your life? Like, this is obviously the thing that you have to do. And then there's a psychological effect you alluded to. There's a psychological effect if you take a set of true believers and you leave them to themselves, they get more radical, right? Because they self-radicalize each other.
That said,
yes,
it doesn't mean they're not sometimes right.
Yeah, the end of the world might be, yes, correct. Like, they might be right.
Yeah.
But like,
I have some pamphlets for you.
Exactly.
We'll talk about nuclear weapons because you have a really interesting little moment that I learned about in your essay. But, sometimes it could be right.
Yeah.
Because you were developing more and more powerful technologies in this case, and we don't know what the impact it will have on human civilization. Well, we can highlight all the different predictions about how it will be positive, but the risks are there, and you discuss some of them.
Well, the steel man and his reputation are the same, which is, well, you can't predict what's going to happen, right? You can't rule out that this will not end everything, right? But the response to that is you have just made a completely non-scientific claim.
Yeah.
You've made a religious claim, not a scientific claim.
How does it get disproven?
There's no, by definition, with these kinds of claims, there's no way to disprove them.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's no, you just go right on the list. There's no hypothesis. There's no testability of the hypothesis. There's no way to falsify the hypothesis. There's no way to measure progress along the arc. Like, it's just all completely missing. And so it's not scientific. And
well, I don't think it's completely missing. It's somewhat missing. So, for example, the people that say AI is going to kill all of us, I mean, they usually have ideas about how to do that, whether it's the paperclip maximizer or, it escapes. There's a mechanism by which you can imagine it killing all humans.
Models.
And you can disprove it by saying there's a limit to the speed at which intelligence increases. Maybe show that like the sort of rigorously really describe model like how it could happen and say, no, here's a physics limitation. There's like a physical limitation to how these systems would actually do damage to human civilization. And it is possible they will kill 10 to 20% of the population, but it seems impossible for them to kill 99%.
There's practical counterarguments, right? So you mentioned basically what I described as the thermodynamic counterargument, which is, so sitting here today, it's like, where would the evil AGI get the GPUs?
Yeah.
Because like they don't exist.
Yep.
So you're going to have a very frustrated baby evil AGI who's going to be like trying to buy NVIDIA stock or something to get them to finally make some chips. Right. So the serious form of that is the thermodynamic argument, which is like, okay, where's the energy going to come from? Where's the processor going to be running? Where's the data center going to be happening? How is this going to be happening in secret such that it's not, So that's a practical counter argument to the runaway AGI thing. I have a, and we can argue that, discuss that. I have a deeper objection to it, which is this is all forecasting, it's all modeling, it's all future prediction, it's all future hypothesizing. Mm-hmm. It's not science.
Sure.
It is not. It is the opposite of science. So I'll pull up Carl Sagan. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. Right. These are extraordinary claims. The policies that are being called for, right, to prevent this are of extraordinary magnitude, and I think we're going to cause extraordinary damage. And this is all being done on the basis of something that is literally not scientific. It's not a testable hypothesis.
So the moment you say AI is going to kill all of us, therefore we should ban it, or that we should regulate it, all that kind of stuff, that's when it starts getting serious.
Or start, military airstrikes on data centers.
Oh boy.
Right? And like...
yeah, that's when it starts getting real.
So here's the problem with millenarian cults. They have a hard time staying away from violence.
Yeah, but violence is so fun.
If you're on the right end of it, they have a hard time avoiding violence. The reason they have a hard time avoiding violence is if you actually believe the claim, right, then what would you do to stop the end of the world? Well, you would do anything, right?
Yeah.
And this is where you get, and again, if you just look at the history of millenarian cults, this is where you get the People's Temple and everybody killing themselves in the jungle. And this is where you get Charles Manson and, sending in to kill the pigs. Like, this is the problem with these. They have a very hard time to run the line at actual violence. And I think in this case, they're already calling for it like today. And, where this goes from here as they get more worked up, like I think is like really concerning.
Okay. But that's kind of the extremes. The extremes of anything are always concerning. It's also possible to kind of believe that AI has a very high likelihood of killing all of us. And therefore we should maybe consider slowing development or regulating. So not violence or any of these kinds of things, but saying like, all right, let's take a pause here. Biological weapons, nuclear weapons, like whoa. This is like serious stuff. We should be careful. So it is possible to kind of have a more rational response, right? If you believe this risk is real.